right, welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're looking at Airbnb,
Yeah, specifically how they handle personal data.
which is super important, right?
Absolutely, especially for a company like Airbnb built on trust.
That's what we're going to unpack today. How they classify all that data to maintain that trust. I mean, think about it. Millions of users
Yeah.
worldwide.
It's a massive amount of data. Huge undertaking.
I was reading about how they do it, and it's honestly fascinating. They even have this shifting left concept.
Oh, yeah, that's key. Building security in from the start, not as an afterthought.
Right. So it's not just about ticking boxes. It's baked into their whole system.
Exactly. It's about building a brand people can trust. And the core of that, their three-pillar system for data classification.
Okay, so 3 pillars. What are we talking about here?
I've got catalog, detection, and reconciliation.
All right, let's break those down. Catalog, that sounds pretty straightforward, right? Like making a list of their data.
Yeah, essentially, but on a massive scale. Imagine Airbnb's data like a giant library.
Oh, I see. Okay, with info from all over, guest profiles, listings, bookings.
Reviews, everything.
Yeah.
And that library is constantly growing.
So they need a system to organize all that, to know what they have and where it is.
Exactly. And they do a lot of that through automation. They have systems that scan and organize everything.
Wow. No matter where the data lives, databases, cloud storage,
You name it.
that's impressive.
Uh,
Okay, so they've got this huge catalog, but how do they figure out which pieces of data are actually personal, sensitive information?
that's where detection comes in. Think of it like a high-tech detective.
A detective.
Yeah, looking for clues in mountains of data.
So they're not just manually tagging everything.
No way, that'd be impossible.
Yeah.
They use all sorts of techniques, keywords, regular expressions, even machine learning to find stuff like names, addresses, payment info.
So it's like an intelligent system that can just spot sensitive stuff.
Right. And they've built this three-step pipeline for accuracy, too. First, a scanner flags potential personal data, then a validator double-checks it.
To make sure it's actually personal info. Smart.
And then there's a step that minimizes false positives.
Minimizes errors. It's got to be important for trust, right? Making sure they're not flagging the wrong things. But wait, with all this automation, why do they need humans involved at all?
Ah, good question. That brings us to the third pillar, reconciliation. Because even the best algorithms can't always understand the context, the nuances.
So the humans are there to double-check the machines.
Exactly. They verify everything, make sure the system is working right, the data is handled responsibly. Plus, Airbnb has automated notifications. So if personal data is found, the data owner gets alerted.
To verify the classification, right?
Yep, within a specific time frame. Keeps everyone accountable.
Like a checks and balances system for data privacy? I like it.
Exactly, combining tech with human oversight.
So how do they even know if this whole system is working? They're not just hoping for the best, right?
Oh, absolutely not. They focus a lot on metrics.
Okay, so what are they measuring?
3 key things: recall, precision, and speed. Recall means finding all the personal data that's out there. Precision is about accuracy. Are the classifications correct? And then speed, well, that's about how quickly they can do all of this.
Makes sense. Got to be thorough, but efficient, too. Sounds like they got a pretty comprehensive approach. But I'm guessing there are challenges even with a system this sophisticated, right?
Yeah, definitely. Managing data at this scale, there are always challenges. One thing they realized is that even with detection and reconciliation, they were kind of playing catch-up.
Catch up.
Like, imagine trying to organize a library after all the books have already been randomly shelved. That's what it was like, classifying data after it was already there.
Sounds messy. So what did they do?
They came up with this concept called shifting left.
Shifting left, what's that?
It's all about building data security into the development process right from the start, like integrating those considerations into the foundation of their data structures.
No, okay. So instead of cleaning up later, they're preventing the mess in the first place.
Exactly, and they've made shifting left a core part of how they work. So whenever a new data model is created, developers have to include these annotations.
Annotations.
Yeah, basically labels that clearly identify what type of data it is. Is it personal, sensitive, or something else?
Like labeling those library books before they even hit the shelves.
Precisely. And to make this whole thing seamless, they've integrated it into their CI/CD pipelines.
CI/CD pipelines. Remind me what those are again?
Oh, right. Think of them as a series of automated checks that run every time a developer makes a change to the code. like a quality control system.
Got it. Automating the checks and balances.
Yeah, and now those checks include making sure the data annotations are done right. They can even automatically suggest data elements to developers based on the schema's metadata and validate them against their taxonomy.
So it's like a built-in safety net, making sure the data is handled responsibly from day one.
Right. Streamlines everything for developers, reduces the chance of errors. But of course, even with all this automation, there are still tricky situations, right? Not everything's black and
Well,
white.
gray areas, yeah.
Exactly. And that's why Airbnb has put a lot of effort into guidelines, decision-making processes for those edge cases. They've got resources and training materials to help developers with those tougher classifications.
So it's not just about the tech. It's about giving people the tools and knowledge to make good decisions about data.
Absolutely. And this brings us back to the human element. You need data owners who understand the nuances, the context, the potential risks. They're crucial.
So that human-in-the-loop idea, it's not just about verifying classifications. It's part of the whole process.
Exactly. You need people who really get the data. And Airbnb, they reinforce this through education and training. They invest in making sure their data owners and consumers know all about data privacy, best practices, company policies.
It's like they're creating a whole culture of data stewardship, where everyone understands the importance of protecting information.
Yeah. And it's this combination of technology, clear processes, and human responsibility that allows them to innovate and grow while maintaining that trust with their users.
Really impressive stuff. We've seen how Airbnb has built this sophisticated system for classifying data.
Hmm.
And it's clear they're constantly evolving, adapting to keep up with data privacy. But I'm curious, with all the challenges they've faced, have there been any big lessons learned along the way?
Definitely. And Airbnb's great about sharing what they've learned. One big thing has been the importance of a unified strategy for classifying data, online and offline, all of it.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about the digital stuff.
Right. Initially, they had separate systems for online and offline data, which created inconsistencies and was just inefficient. Now they've moved to a single system that covers everything.
Makes sense. One system, one approach. What else have they learned?
Another key learning has been the value of getting data owners involved early. That shifting left approach we talked about, it prevents problems down the line and builds that shared responsibility for security.
Being proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly. And they've also realized how important it is to have clear guidelines for those tricky classification cases. Not everything fits neatly into categories.
So having a framework for those gray areas when you need human judgment.
Precisely. But I think the biggest takeaway here is that building a solid data classification system, it's a journey. It takes constant adaptation, refinement.
Always evolving as the data landscape changes, tech advances, new challenges pop up.
You got it. It's not something you just set and forget. It needs attention, a commitment to continuous improvement.
Speaking of new challenges, in the final part of our deep dive, we're going to look at some limitations of Airbnb's current system and what the future holds for data classification in our ever-changing digital world. Stick with us. We're back with our deep dive into Airbnb's data classification system. It's been fascinating to see how they've built this whole thing, but I'm sure there are limitations, right? Even with a system this advanced.
Oh, for sure. And Airbnb's upfront about those limitations. One of the biggest they've talked about is the challenge of post-processing classification.
Post-processing, meaning they're classifying the data after it's already been collected.
Yeah. And even with their shifting left efforts, there's still loads of data from before those processes were in place.
So it's like trying to add security measures to something that wasn't built with security in mind from the start.
Exactly. It can lead to inconsistencies, gaps, more room for error. It's a tough battle to catch up.
Makes sense. Are there other areas they're looking to improve?
They're always working on their automated detection. Like, how can they make it even more accurate, more efficient, even with all the tech they have now?
Yeah, especially with all the new types of data popping up. Unstructured stuff from social media, sensor data from those Internet of Things devices.
Absolutely. Plus, there's always the pressure of keeping up with privacy regulations. What's considered personal data today might change tomorrow, so the system needs to be flexible.
It's a constant race to stay ahead, isn't it? With technology and data privacy evolving so fast.
It really is. But what stands out to me is Airbnb's commitment to continuous improvement. They're not settling. They're always looking for ways to do better.
Yeah, it shows they really care about building that trust with their users. So as we wrap up here, what are the big takeaways? What can our listeners learn from all this?
I think Airbnb's story really highlights that data security isn't just about technology. It's a cultural thing, too. It's got to be built into every part of the process from the very beginning.
Not just checking a box, but making it a core principle.
Right. And it's a journey, not a destination. As things change, companies need to be ready to adapt and keep improving.
Airbnb is a great example of that. They've built a successful business while making user privacy a priority.
And they've been open about their process, sharing what they've learned along the way.
That's awesome. Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive. We've learned about Airbnb's system, their shifting left approach, the importance of the human element in all of this.
We've talked about the challenges, the need for constant improvement. It's a complex landscape out there.
Definitely. If you want to go even deeper, check out the Airbnb tech blog. They have some great articles with even more details about their approach.
It's a fantastic resource for anyone interested in data privacy and the future of tech.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of data classification. Until next time.